Now we move to specimen B, spider. So let's just briefly talk about spider. So spider, the order is Araneda or Araneae, of the species arachnids. Okay, they are different from insects because they have 8 legs rather than 6 legs, and they have body divided into 2 parts rather than 3 parts. Okay, so because you may be asked a question, why is spider not considered an insect, something like that. So all spiders are predators. They feed almost entirely on other arthropods, especially insects. They feed on insects mostly. So some spiders are active hunters. They chase and overpower their prey, and those ones typically have a well-developed sense of touch or sight. But others, they weave silk snares or they weave webs to capture their prey. Okay, many of these spider, they can even inject venom into their prey to kill it quickly, while others just use the silk wrapping to immobilize their victims and then feed on them. The female spiders generally are much larger than the males. Okay, the phenomenon is known as sexual size dimorphism. Okay, most of the females are orb weavers. They weave the orbs instead of pursuing their prey. So I said all spiders are predators because of their abundance. They are the most important predators of insects. The spiders have been used to control insects in orchards in so many countries. So a large number of spiders can be used to, you introduce them to your farm and they feed on the insects. So with that, you've controlled insects. So spider can be used to control insects because they are good predators of insects. Okay. We also said that the body of spiders, just like other arachnids, are divided into 2 parts. The 2 parts are the cephalothorax, that's the prosoma, and then the abdomen, which is the opistosoma. Okay, so the legs are attached to the cephalothorax, which contains the stomach and the brain. The top of the cephalothorax is covered by a protective structure. Okay, while the underside is covered by a structure called the sternum. Okay, which is an anterior projection. That's the labium. The abdomen contains the guts, the heart, productive organs, and the silk glands. Okay, but spider differ from other arachnids because they lack external segmentation of the abdomen. Okay, and also they have abdomen attached to the cephalothorax by a narrow stalk. That's the pedicel. So the guts, the nerve cord, the blood vessels, and sometimes the respiratory tubules, that's the trachea, they pass through this narrow pedicel, which allows the body movements necessary during web construction. Okay. So the question comes: what are the reasons a spider is not considered an insect? And the answer would be: it has 4 pairs of legs, while insects have 3 pairs of legs. Okay. It has 2 body divisions, that's the cephalothorax and the abdomen, that's opistosoma, while insects have 3 body divisions: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. That's why spider is not considered an insect. Also, the spider has pedipalp, while insects have antenna. Spider has no wings, while some insects have wings. And spider has 8 simple eyes, while insects have 2 compound eyes. Spider has spinnerets, while insects do not have. And spiders have chelicerae, while insects do not have. Spiders respire by means of long book, L-U-N-G, long book, while insects respire with their trachea. Okay, so that's why spider is not considered an insect. But there are other. Remember, we said that the class of spider is Arachnida, Arachnida, Arachnida. And what's the reason? Always remember, they'll ask the reason why you say it's like that. Because of the position of 4 pairs of legs, 2 body divisions, prosoma and opistosoma. Okay, then you see their structural Features: spider has 2 body divisions, and we've already said that. Has 4 pairs of legs, no antenna, no wings, hairy body, okay, and all that. So if you're asked, you fetch your information from there and you answer them accurately. Okay, that's specimen B. Now we get to specimen C, Pride of Barbados. Now, what are the floral parts of Pride of Barbados? The sepals or the calyx, and the petals or the corolla, the stamen or the androecium, and the pistil or the gynecium. Okay, those are the floral parts that produce flower. And then the number of floral parts of the Pride of Barbados flower: the sepals and the calyx, 5. No, the petals of the corolla, 5/4, and stamen or androecium, 10, and the pistil or gynecium, 1 of it. Okay, the sex of Pride of Barbados flower is hermaphrodite, so it's bisexual. All right, and reason for that answer is that it has both the stamen and the pistil, that's the male and female organs, androecium and gynecium. All right, take note that stamen and pistil must be together for you to score a mark if you're writing that. Okay, now how about the symmetry of Pride of Barbados flower? It has a bilateral or bilaterally symmetrical. Okay, so it's bilaterally symmetrical. What's the reason for that answer? Because it can be cut into 2 equal halves along only one plane. Okay, so it's bilaterally symmetrical. What is the name of a pollinating agent of Pride of Barbados flower? Okay, butterfly. Bees can pollinate Pride of Barbados. So you can see it's not difficult for you to write features, especially features of your specimen. It's just to look at it. Look at the specimen that is given to you, and then you can, in your own words, write the features. It has an antenna, it has this, it has this kind of leg, is that. So don't rely on quoting. You can easily look at it and just say what you see there. That's a description of the features, but just use biological terms also to be able to score full marks. Okay, so if you look at Pride of Barbados, you see the flowers are conspicuous, they are large, and they are brightly colored. The flowers, yellow to red. You see that you can easily look at the specimen and say, okay, these flowers are large and these flowers are brightly colored. The colors are yellow or red, and then you can smell it and say, okay, they are scented flowers. You write that under your features, scented flowers. And then they have a large or sticky pollen grains. Touch the pollen grains, see, it's sticky and large, and the stigma is also sticky. All right, you can look at them and just supply your answers. But then when you're asked to draw, put a diagram on your screen now. Look at how you should draw it. Draw and label accurately like this. Please draw like this and label. And remember the title, the size, the clarity of lines, the neatness of labels, the magnification, and the label should be petals, sepals, stigma, style, filaments, antenna, standard, petal, the receptacle, the thalamus, the pedicel, the flower, the stalk. You should have all this labeled for you to score complete marks. All right, now we go to specimen D, bean seed. Remember that bean seed can be properly stored through storage in airtight polythene bags. You can store it in airtight polythene bags, and also in silos, and also store it in a cool, dry place, like deep freezer or refrigerator. Okay, you can also do seed dressing with chemicals or fumigants. You can do seed processing. You can do canning. All right, so those are ways of storing specimen D, bean seed. Just want to start there so that I won't forget before we finish. Now, but take note of this. Bean is a member of the legumes family, and the bean seed typically contains the future plant or the embryo. Okay, so the important structure of the bean seed is the testa. Testa refers to the outermost protective layer, which is often extremely thin but resilient. So water can penetrate the testa surface through a microscopic opening known as a micropyle, and it begins the germination process, and by breaking the latent period. And then we have the cotyledons. Cotyledons are the 2 halves of the bean seed that are covered and protected by the testa. So the young bean plant usually uses cotyledons as food storage until it is big enough to feed itself. Then we have the embryo. The embryo is the young plant It consists of the first set of leaves, that's the plumule, and the first roots, that's the radicle. The radicle grows and spreads out through the micropyle into the earth below as water enters the micropyle. So at the same time, the plumule begins to grow upward while that happens. And then we have the epicotyle and the hypocotyle. The portion of the stem above the cotyledons and below the plumule is known as the epicotyle. So the epicotyle expands and lengthens as the bean seedlings grow. We call that phototropism. So between the cotyledons and the foot is the hypocotyle, which is a component of the stem. So the hypocotyle travels upward through the earth, through the sun, towards the sun, with the plumule and the cotyledons. Then we have the hilum, H-I-L-U-M. That's where the seed, the bean seed, once connected to the pod, is marked by a scar called the hilum. The micropyle is found in that hilum. Okay, so to grow, a bean seed needs water. So it initially takes in the water through a tiny opening, which we call the micropyle. So the young bean plant starts to emerge from the bean seed as it begins to germinate or grow. So it feeds on the starch found in the cotyledon. So you may be constructively asked a question on how this specimen D germinates. So they may ask a question relating to how it germinates. And you know the type of germination in bean seed is epigeal germination. So how does it germinate? You see the diagram I've just put on your screen now. I've labeled them, but first we have to identify all that label. The label I is the leaf veins. II is the epicotyle. III is the lateral roots or the secondary roots. IV is the tap roots, the primary roots or the main roots, the tester and the seed coat. And the V is the tester and the seed coat. VI is the radicle. VII is the cotyledon, and the VII is the foliage leaf or the plumule. Okay, maybe ask functions of those parts. The leaf veins is to conduct water or mineral salts to manufacture food, and the epicotyle to support the leaves or to carry water or food throughout the plant. The tap roots or primary roots or the main roots anchors the plant firmly to the soil to absorb water and mineral salts. And the tester and the seed coat protects the seed from fungi, from bacteria, from spoilage organisms, from insects. And then the radicle grows downwards to form the root system. And then the cotyledon stores food, so it's a source of energy for the germination, like I already explained. Okay, so I want to explain how the germination takes place, and I've already said the type of germination is epigeal germination. All right, so how does this germination take place? All right, the tester will split. Tester splits and the radicle will emerge. The radicle then grows downward. The lateral roots develop or appear. The hypocotyle elongates, pulling the cotyledons above the ground. The tester then is left in the soil, and the hypocotyle is bent over, carrying the cotyledons that are still closed together. Why? To protect the plumule. The hypocotyle will then straighten, and the cotyledons will split open. The foliage leaves will emerge, and the epicotyle grows out, showing the apical bud, and the foliage leaves will then open. Okay, so that's how bean seed germinates, from when you put the seed on the ground to when it starts growing and comes out as a plant. And the other example of other seeds that have this type of germination also: mango seed, orange seed. So they can ask you that as a relationship between specimen D and specimen J, orange fruit. Okay, so we know that orange fruit also has this type of germination. You asked. Okay, tomato seed, bean seed, castor oil seed, okay, cashew nuts, all this, flamboyant seed, groundnut seed. Just make sure you mention a correct one to score a mark. Then you may be asked, how does the cotyledon, how is it carried above the soil? Because it says bent over and carried. So how is it carried? So you answer, it's bent over, hook-like hypocotyle. Okay, that's how it's carried above the soil, and it straightens out and elongates, carrying the cotyledons upwards. So the bent over hypocotyle straightens out, elongates, and carries the cotyledons up. That's how the cotyledon is carried above the soil. And then the part that stores food, they may ask you, what's the part that stores food in bean seed? You say it's the cotyledon. Okay, and the food substance that is stored there is what? Is starch, carbohydrates, or protein, and then oil. So starch, that's what the food that is stored in that cotyledon. And what are the conditions necessary for the process of that germination? the seed, the bean seed, must be viable. And how to test for viability? You put the bean seeds in water. The ones that float are not viable, and the cotyledons have been destroyed. When it starts growing, there will be no food, so no need, you throw them away. The ones that sink in water are viable. Those are the ones that you must use in planting. So the seeds must be viable, and also there should be moisture. Water, it needs water, because water has to penetrate this bean seed. And then air, that's oxygen, so it's not a hard ground, till the ground, or start with a nursery. And then warmth or suitable temperature, not sun, harsh sun. No, you need sunlight, but warm, suitable temperature. Now you will kill it. All right, those are the conditions necessary for bean seed to grow or germinate and grow. Before I forget, that specimen E, we've already discussed butterfly when we're discussing housefly, but let me add this: the life cycle of butterfly. Okay, the egg is the stage 1. The female butterfly lays the egg on the surface of a leaf or a stem. So the egg is tiny, oval or cylindrical, and varies in color. It can be green, it can be brown, it can be transparent, whatever. So the popular larval form of a butterfly is known as a caterpillar. Alright, this gradually grows inside the egg, and these eggs will hatch according to the favorable conditions that are outside. So if it's warm, the eggs are faster, they hatch faster. Otherwise, it takes a few weeks. Then the next life cycle is the larva, the caterpillar. That's the stage 2. The larva, or in this case the caterpillar that hatches, goes on an eating rampage. So in this stage, they eat molts and repeat that process constantly. Okay, after hatching, the caterpillar is extremely hungry and eats constantly. Caterpillar eats its way out of the egg and then continues to eat plants in the outside world. That's the second stage, caterpillar or the larva stage. Then the stage 3 is the pupa. That's the chrysalis. The caterpillar forms a vessel around it called the pupa. Inside the pupa, the caterpillar gradually grows and develops. During this stage, the pupa creates skins around the vessel that makes the exterior hard. The chrysalis protects the pupa till it transforms into a butterfly and breaks out of the vessel. So you have the next stage now, which is the adult stage. Okay, that's the most prominent stage to human beings. That's the adult stage, when the chrysalis breaks out of the vessel with a colorful scaly wings. So at first, these scaly wings are folded against the body of the butterfly because of its brittle nature. Once it pumps blood into the wing, the butterfly flies in search of food and other butterflies to mate with. And after the mating is completed, the female butterfly lays eggs on a leaf or flat surface, and the whole cycle begins all over again. So remember, butterflies are cold-blooded insects that require external temperatures to create body temperature. Body temperature. So in extremely cold temperatures, the butterfly spreads its wings on a leaf, on a pile of mud or rocks, to acquire sufficient body heat, in case you're asked about adaptation to its environment. All right. So we've done specimen A, housefly; specimen B, spider; specimen C, pride of Barbados; specimen D, bean seed; specimen E, butterfly. Now, specimen F, crayfish, is what we are going into now. So crayfish is a freshwater dwelling animal that is is a crustacean, and it belongs to the subclass Malacostraca. Now there are 6 subgroups of crustaceans. All of them, they share common traits, while others are more simplistic. Okay, the subclass Malacostraca is the most complex of the 6 crustacean groups. So it's important to note that there are 2 main parts of a crayfish, including the cephalothorax and the abdomen. So the cephalothorax includes the head and the thoracic sections, while the abdomen is below the cephalothorax that continues to the pelvis. It's important to note that. Okay, now crayfish are invertebrates, meaning they are animals that do not have a backbone. Instead, they are made up of segmented body parts that are fused together. So this main characteristic is what also makes them arthropods, because arthropods are invertebrates that have segmented bodies with various appendages, like we've already discussed in other specimens, and a hard outer body. Okay, so the phylum Arthropoda is vast and includes many types of animals and insects, such as spiders. So you can also be asked to compare specimen B spider with this crayfish because they belong to the same phylum Arthropoda. So get ready to share some of the similarities and differences. Just look at the structure of the stuff. You're able to list them out. Okay, so in case you are asked, and not which other specimen share the same phylum as specimen F, crayfish, the answer is specimen B, spider. Also, we can have centipede, shrimp, and crabs. Okay, so the kingdom, Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, class Crustacea, and the subclass, I said Malacostraca. Then the order is Decapoda. All right, remember all this. You may be asked because there are not much questions in crayfish apart from comparing with either spider or grasshopper, maybe butterfly. Okay, if they are if they compare and contrast them, I've already given you enough points for spider, butterfly, crayfish, grasshopper, so you can easily compare them with that. This is present, this is absent, this one has hair, this one does not, this one lives in water, the other one lives in this, like that. Just compare. You can easily do it. You don't need somebody to tell you exactly what to write. You just need to know how to do it, the terms you should use, how you should put them. So just understand, and then even when questions come that you didn't expect, you can still answer them. They are simple. All right, so so crayfish continually shed their exoskeleton and regrow a new one, and during this transition is when they are most vulnerable to predators because they are not protected by their outer shell at that point. Okay, so crayfish are found all over the world in many different freshwater environments. So it's a freshwater animal, such as river, creeks, springs, and swamps. Now, but this doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to find them when you just see a river or all that. Okay, they are somewhat cryptic because they dig out homes for themselves under rocks and blend in well with their environment. So how they can adapt, how they can protect themselves from predators, you can also get information from there. And crayfish will ardently defend this dwelling against intruders using their strong front claws. Okay, even when they are dead and dry, you don't just grab crayfish and squeeze it in your hand like that. You see those thorny stuff, they will injure you. They can give you pricks. So when they are alive, they use that to defend their territory. Okay, so crayfish are nocturnal. That means they sleep during the day and are active at night. Okay, crayfish provide an important food source for other aquatic animals as well as land animals like the raccoons and the opossums. Okay, so though they themselves are omnivores, that's they eat both plants and animals. Okay, so but they are also food for other animals. Humans eat it too. Some favorite food items include insects, fish, and frog eggs, even worms. That's why fishermen use worm as bait to be able to get them out. All right, now a female crayfish carries her eggs on the underside of her abdomen, and even after they hatch, the babies will stay with her like that for several days before venturing out on a life of their own. So the normal lifespan of a crayfish is about 2 to 3 years, and on average can get up to 6 inches in length, though sometimes they are found to be larger than that. Okay, so crayfish have 2 body segments. We've said that the head may look like it is separate, but it's actually fused with the thorax, forming the first segment, and then you have the cephalothorax. So a hard protective carapace covers the first segment. It protects it like a shield. The back end of the crayfish is then the abdomen. Okay, the back end is the abdomen. So on the head we find the eyes, the antenna, and the antennae, which look like much shorter antenna. The crayfish will use its antenna for touch, taste, and smell, and its antennae for balance, touch, and taste. So we also find the mouth parts of the crayfish on this head part. The mandibles are the crushing jaws, and 2 pairs of maxillae hold and tear solid food before it reaches the mouth. There is another structure that helps with eating, and we call it maxillipedes. Now, these act like arms that hold food while the crayfish eats it. Okay, you see that in some of the animals. So gather information from all this I've said, and you'll be able to compare it with spider or any other specimen that you are given. You'll be able to write the features, you'll be able to write the life cycle. You know, they live in fresh water, you're able to write their family, the class, the phylum, all those from all this I've said. So we've done specimen A, B, C, D, E, F, which is crayfish. Now we've done grasshopper, G. We're moving into H, humerus of rabbit.